Imagine a being capable of granting almost any wish, a power so terrifying that entire families fear it, a creature that can heal the impossible, erase obstacles instantly, and potentially reshape reality itself. Yet this entity lives inside a little girl named Aluka Zoldyck. To understand where she gets this power, you have to look at the expeditions to where it originated. The survival rate of those voyages is a microscopic 0.04%. Just let that number sink in for a second. Imagine a world so relentlessly hostile, so incredibly vast, that the greatest explorers and minds in human history are reduced to little more than a rounding error when they attempt to cross its borders. This is the terrifying scale of the Dark Continent. But what if I told you that one of the most apocalyptic horrors from this untamed world isn't waiting out there in the dark? It shouldn't exist in the human world at all, and yet, it's already here. Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're taking a deep dive into what is arguably the darkest, most unsettling mystery within the Hunter x Hunter universe. We are analyzing the true nature of an entity that defies all logic, breaks every single established rule of power, and represents a creeping cosmic horror that the known world is completely unprepared for. We're looking at the Zoldyck family's most heavily guarded secret, Naniko's true nature. Section 1. The Mystery of Nanika. We really have to start with the immediate anomaly staring us right in the face, right? A little girl named Aluka Zoldyck. Born into a family of the world's most notorious assassins, Aluka herself isn't actually a trained killer, but she houses an entity the family simply calls Nanika, or something. Nanika possesses a wish-granting ability that seems virtually limitless. We're talking healing the impossible or granting immense, unfathomable wealth. But, and this is a massive but, it's tied to terrifying, deadly costs. If a previous wish was massive, the requests Nanika makes of the next person become unspeakably cruel. Deny those requests 4 times, and the person, along with those they love most, are instantly crushed to death. It's an ability so catastrophic that the elite Zoldyck family literally locked Aluka in an underground vault, absolutely terrified her powers could wipe out their entire bloodline. Section 2. The Price of a Wish versus the Rules of Nen. Now, what's really interesting here is that to highlight just how entirely unnatural this entity truly is, we have to shift our focus to the established mechanics of this universe. You know how power works here. It's built on Nen, which is governed by strict psychological constructs and the principle of equivalent exchange, known as conditions and limitations. In standard combat, a skilled user relies on their aura output and incredibly strict, self-imposed rules to amplify their power. The stricter the rule, the more potent the ability. You can't just create a sword that cuts through literally anything because that exceeds human capacity. You have to give something to get something. But Nanika completely shatters this framework. I mean, standard Nen limits are grounded. They're tied to human capacity and require deep personal sacrifice from the user. Nanika's power, however, is limitless reality manipulation. There is no human aura output limit. The sacrifices demanded are almost always paid by other people, not the user. It operates like a localized god, not a martial artist, leaving experts and fans heavily debating whether this entity's power even qualifies as Nen in the first place. Section 3. The Calamity Known as A. To understand what Nanika actually is, we have to leave the Zoldyck estate behind. We have to look outward, way past the known map, and delve into the horrifying history of human exploration. The known human world is actually just a tiny cluster of islands nestled within a gigantic body of water called Lake Mobius. And outside of that lake, that's the Dark Continent, a massive, untamed biosphere. When Isaac Netero, literally one of the strongest humans to ever live, took an unsanctioned voyage there, he returned and simply declared that the continent was too big. Human concepts of combat, victory, and individual strength are completely meaningless when confronted with self-sustaining planetary-scale disasters. Let's look at the historical data for a second. 149. Over the past several centuries, there have been 149 recorded attempts by major human nations to voyage to the Dark Continent. Out of all those massive, heavily funded expeditions, do you know how many officially returned with survivors? 5. Just 5. And those 5 survivals, they came at a horrifying cost. Each successful expedition sought a miraculous resource, like a cure-all herb or an alchemy plant. But as a penalty for their intrusion, the mysterious guides of the Dark Continent systematically forced the survivors to bring back a great calamity to humanity. It was a warning. Brionne, the botanical weapon. Pop, the human-keeping beast. Hellbell, the two-tailed snake. Zobe, the immortality sickness. And from the Mimbo Republic, a gaseous life form. And here is the horrifying truth staring us right in the face. The entity brought back from the Mimbo Republic, the gaseous life form known as I, is actually Nanika. The Zoldyck family is not harboring a mutant Nenruser. No, they are unknowingly harboring an apocalyptic ecological countermeasure, completely unchecked, sitting right inside the body of a child. Section 4. Hilua, the only exception. So you might be wondering, if Nanika is a planetary threat, an ecological disaster designed to punish humanity, why hasn't the world ended yet? Well, it all builds to a fascinating emotional core and one specific person. Why does Nanika love Killua? How do you reconcile the cosmic, indiscriminate dread of the Dark Continent with the very genuine affection this entity shows for Aluka's older brother? It turns out, Killua's empathy acts as the absolute only known safeguard against a planetary disaster. Unlike his family, who treat Aluka and Nanika as dangerous cursed objects, Killua treats them both with genuine love and compassion. Because of this deep bond, he discovered critical loopholes. He can issue commands to heal rather than making selfish wishes. And the amazing thing, healing someone doesn't trigger those cruel, deadly costs. He used this exact loophole to successfully pull his best friend Gon back from the absolute brink of death. By ultimately sealing her powers away so they could safely travel the world together, Killua's compassion literally saved humanity. Section 5. The ultimate power scale. For all you power scaling fans out there, how do you even measure the strength of a calamity? Consider Gon's limitation transformation. Gon sacrificed his entire future potential, decades of training, and essentially his own life just for an immediate, temporary power boost to defeat a single chimera ant. That is the absolute ultimate cap of standard aura output. But then we have Nanika. Nanika was able to reverse that absolute ultimate sacrifice effortlessly. A penalty that should have been completely irreversible under the laws of Nen was wiped away by a child's wish, completely and totally shattering the power scaling hierarchy. The source material lays it out perfectly. It says, Nanika isn't a Nen master, but the entity possessing it has the power to grant wishes for a price. It being Nen or not is debatable. Nanika breaks all the biological and psychological constraints we understand. It proves without a shadow of a doubt that human metrics, martial arts, and aura capacity simply do not apply to species originating from the Dark Continent. It's a whole different ballgame. Section 6. The true cosmic horror. If what we've discussed so far unsettled you, the implications of this final revelation should truly terrify you. The 5 threats are not isolated monsters. They are entire species. The sources point to a deeply disturbing theory. The calamities brought back to the known world as penalties, including Amy, are merely standard or perhaps even weaker specimens of their respective populations.
Think about the sheer scale of this threat for a minute. Nanika is just one single fragment, one specimen of I. Uncounted numbers of I still exist back in the Mimbo Republic on the Dark Continent. Furthermore, reports indicate that victims twisted by I and the human-keeping beast Papajori are already appearing completely undetected in the known world. That means they have breached containment. Humanity has only successfully encountered and survived 0.04% of the continent's ecosystem. If a single I can effortlessly rewrite reality and demand dozens of human lives as an equivalent exchange, the true scale of the Dark Continent is simply beyond human comprehension.
Which leaves us with this final, chilling thought. Look at what a single specimen has done. Look at the fear it instills in the deadliest assassins on Earth. If Nanika is only one of many beings from the Dark Continent, what else is waiting out there in the dark? Keep questioning the limits of your favorite worlds.